Okay, good Tavach. We're up to Mem Zayin Amid Aleph, the Mishnah at the top. We're concluding today a parak. So just to go through the protocol of the Nazir, which we've been going through, the Nazir on the 30th day, right? Machloikis on the Baprada Rav Masna on the 30th day, the 31st day. Let's go according to Rav Masna, the 31st day. He goes ahead, he brings 3 kabbanis, brings the chatas and oila shlamim. He would take a haircut, soup up the hair, burn it underneath the pot, right? Now, what happens if it becomes tummy on that day? Tummy on the it's called biyam malos, the day malos that he's fulfilled his naziris. So we had a machlokes earlier in the Masechta. Rabbi Eliezer said that he doesn't come. It's not slice or anything. All you would have to do is keep 7 days to go ahead and cleanse yourself up for tumas meis, to purify yourself with tumas meis. According to the Chacham, you need another 30 days for Gidul Seir. That was the machlokes. Okay. The Mishnah we're discussing now is going to be where he brought 1 carbon, and after he brought that carbon, then became tamei. What would the din be? Would he have to bring all 3 carbonas, or only from Mikan Lahaba, the one he brought would count, and then so on and so forth? Mishin Isakalav Echa Min Hadamim, says the Mishnah. One of the carbonas, they literally sprinkled the blood. In other words, he brought one of the carbonas, Benitma, and after bringing that carbon, consequently, he contracted Tama. Rabbi Eliezer says it's soisa everything. Now, the havamin of the Gemara is that he soisa all of his naziris. Now, in fact, that's not true. Rabbi Eliezer says he's only soisa 7 days, but we'll see what that means. If it means soisa as a kol, it means it's soisa all the karbanis. It's soisa all the karbanis. The chacham of the opinion, yavis shar karbanis of yitahar. Go ahead, bring the remaining karbanis, and then when you tahar, okay, you bring the remaining karbanis, no problem. In other words, let's say you brought the chatas, you're good. Then you just bring the oil and the shlamim. Amulai, they told Rabbi Eliezer to substantiate their opinion. The Chachamim, Ma'isa b'Miriam haTarmudis. That's the name of Talmud. Shenizrak Allaha echad min hadamim. She was in a zira. She brought her the kabbanis. Ubo v'amula, and they came and told her albita shahaytin fukenis. They came and told her that her daughter was deathly ill. That the daughter was deathly ill. The whole after bringing this 1 carbon, she went umatza, and she found shemesa that in fact that the daughter had died. Just bring all the rest of the kabbanis with the tar, and you'll be tar. You won't be a nazir anymore. Shimon, we just finished the Mishnah on Mem Zayin on Aleph. So outside again, what do we say? It's the 31st day. She brought 1. A carbon was brought. What's the halacha? Says Rebbe Eliezer, you're going to have to wait 7 days, and then you're going to have to go ahead and bring what? And bring 3 new karbanis. Says the Chachamim, you'll have to wait 7 days. You'll have to wait 7 days, and then you would bring what? You would bring only 2 karbanis, right? You'd bring like 2 karbanis. I'm wondering about if you have to wait 30 days for Gidul Seir. I'm not sure. What does it say? Yeah. Yeah, the Taisa seems to say after 7 days. The second place is down after 7 days. Okay. Also, in other words, since you yotzi in the Naziris after the first Zrika, according to the Chachamim, this is really Reb Shimon, right? You'll be finishing the Naziris, and you would only have to bring 7 days to take care of your tumah of tumas meis, and then you would bring the karbanis, whatever carbon you didn't bring. I just find fascinating. Often, we know the Gemara deals with situations, right? We know the Gemara deals with situations, that it covers any situation. Often those situations, we say to ourselves, like, could that really happen? Could that really happen? I think it's fascinating. The Gemara just put a maisa. When you learn the Mishnah, come on, you're in the Beis HaMikdash, you're bringing karbanis, ostensibly you had all 3 karbanis there. How's it possible for you to be tamei, right? How's that possible? And the Gemara then put a maisa, exactly that happened. It occurred, right? This Miriam, this person, Miriam, she went ahead and she, in fact, contracted tumah after the first carbon. Fascinating, it happened. In other words, it did. It did. In fact, such a case. So it's like a shmak again, just enhances the kedusha and the practicality of Torah. Says the Gemara, Ketani Rabbi Eliezer emes seiser sakol. Rabbi Eliezer says seiser sakol. Now the havamin of the Gemara is you're not speaking about the karbanis. He's speaking about the naziris. It's mashma, it would override the whole Naziris, and you have to start again 30 days. Fred the Gemara of Amar Reb Eliezer, Kol Achem Elois Shiva Soiser. Meaning it's not Soiser anything, guys. Shiva is for the Tumah, it's not for the Naziris, right? We spoke this out when we had this Gemara earlier, right? We had this Gemara before. It doesn't mean Soiser, it's not Soiser anything. The 7 days is just to go ahead and clean yourself up from the Tumah of mace. So how can you say it's Soiser Sakol? So therefore, in the Chanami, like we learned in the Mishnah, Amarav, my Soiser Nami the Kamar, when it says Soiser, you know what it means? It doesn't mean the Naziris, it means the carbon. There's a Soiser Kabar Noisav. Reneza says it's soisa the carbon, meaning the carbon you brought will not count, and you'd have to bring it again. If you brought the chatas and you became tamei, then when you after 7 days you're gonna have to bring a chatas oil and a shlamim, as opposed to the chachamim you only have to bring an oil and shlamim. Hakanami Mistarba says the Gemara that's the machlokes, and that's pshat in the Mishnah. The ketani the chachamim tavi shar kabaneseha v'titor. What are the again? If you're speaking about all the naziris that you say in Naziris, what's the retort of the Chachamim? Rabbi is saying it's says the Naziris, says the Chachamim, no, the Kabbanas are good. Bishlam, if you tell Rabbi Lezer says that what the Kabbanas are no good, we can understand the Chachamim say no, the carbon is good. But so you can see from the words of Rabbi Eliezer exactly, from the words of the Chachamim, what exactly Rabbi Eliezer meant. We can see from the words of the Chachamim exactly what Rabbi Eliezer meant. The Chachamim Maimir says the Chachamim, B'tavi sharka b'nesel v'titashmamina u'maisanami b'miriam hatarmudis shenizra kolaha echad min hadamim. One of the kabbanas was brought ubo, but the Yuhu they came and informed her on bita shahaisim sukena she was deathly ill. The whole chumatzah shemesa and she found her dead. And obviously she walked into the room and she's now contracts tumah. V'yomer chachamim tavi sharka b'neselha. Let her bring the other kabbanas but the first one that she brought v'titar shmamina. There you go. Hajim lecha shleisha minim. Okay. Now we know that there's different parshas in the Torah of people of Tumah. For example, a kohen hedyot is commanded, a regular kohen is commanded not to contract Tumah. In the state of Tyru, Kahanim are not allowed to go ahead and become Tameh, with 7 exceptions, right? The exceptions in parshas Achremos, the ones that parshas Emor, the ones they're able to. Okay. A kohen can be tamet to the 7 krovim. A kohen gadol cannot be tamet to anyone. A kohen gadol cannot be tamet to anyone, and a nazir similar to a kohen gadol cannot be tamet to anyone. A nazir, they're both the kedusha of the kohen gadol, right? The kohen gadol is kaddish, and the kedusha of the kohen hedyot is kaddish. They're all kaddish, but different levels of tumah. And the level of kedusha, different levels of kedusha, the different level of a kohen gadol and nazir are similar. Okay, however, there's one exception to the rule. That exception is what is a mace mitzvah. We saw the other day what's a mace mitzvah. Anyone that you'd call and no one will be able to answer. If someone will be able to answer, it's not a mace mitzvah. If no one's available, then it's a mace mitzvah. We had the Gemara Pax of the Arvis where the father lost a head and there's no one available. The son can call somebody. If you're on the way, that's considered a mace mitzvah. So this is the one exception to the rule that appears throughout Shas, and this is the source. This is the source. Says the new parak, says the Mishnah, kohen gadol v'nazir, a kohen gadol v'nazir, right? A kohen gadol and a nazir. Ein mitamoyin lekrovehem. They can't be mitama to their relatives, the 7 relatives that a kohen had. You could be the mitama to. Avol mitamoyin lemeis mitzvah. They could be mitama to a mes mitzvah. They could be mitama to a mes mitzvah. If they were walking on the way, so you have a kohen gadol and a nazir, walking along the way. Umatzah mes mitzvah, and they encounter a mes mitzvah. Rabbi Eliezer is of the opinion yitma kohen gadol val yitma nazir. Says Rabbi Eliezer, the kedusha of the naziris in this case is more severe than the kedusha of a kohen gadol, and the Gemara and the Mishnah is going to say why in a second. So in other words, there's a halachic shaila over here. They're both allowed to be mitama l'meis mitzvah. Who takes precedent? Obviously, you don't need both the mitama. Who takes precedent? Said Rabbi Eliezer, the nazir takes precedent, and the kohen gadol is mitama, because the kedusha of kodesh yiyah of the nazir it circumvents, overcomes the kedusha of the kohen gadol. The chacham of the opinion, yitma nazir, yitma kayin. No, the nazir is less kedusha than the kohen gadol, and therefore the nazir should be mitama and not the kohen gadol. Very interesting thing. Amal lehem Rabbi Eliezer, says Rabbi Eliezer, yitma kayin she'ena mevi carbon al tumasai, val yitma nazir shu mevi carbon al tumasai. We focus in the last parak something very interesting. Both the nazir that contracts tumah doing yemei naziris, and a person or a kohen for that matter goes ahead and contracts tumas mace. Again, when you're dealing with tumah nazir, you're only dealing with tumas mace, right? In both cases, you tamei tumas shiva. Today's parsha, right? Today's parsha, Parshas Para, and the only way to go ahead and get out of tumas mace is to have day 3 and day 7 paraduma ashes mixed with mayim chayim sprinkled upon you. That's the only way to get rid of your tumah. After you get rid of the tumah, the kohen or the regular person is free. He's totally tahar. Conversely, the one who's a kohen, a nazir, is not. He still has to bring 2 birds. One is a chatas, one is an oila, and one asham. One male, one ayil. He has to bring an ayil asham. He has to bring asham milas. He has to bring an ayil as an asham. So l'chayra, the nazir, therefore, says Rabbi Eliezer, his kedusha, we can see from the fact that his getting out of his tumah is more severe, because he has to go ahead and bring kamanis. That means his kedusha is more kaddish, and therefore the kohen gadol should go ahead and be metama to the meis mitzvah rather than the nazir. That's the opinion. In other words, the Mishnah now is giving the reason for Rebbe Eliezer, that the kedusha of the nazir is more kaddish, because why? Because he has to get out of his state of tumah is higher, because he brings 3 kabbanis and an asham. So Amuloi, the Chachamim retorted to Rebbe Eliezer. 1 second. The Yitama Nazir she'ein kedushasa kedushas olam, val Yitama koyin she'kedusha kedushas olam. The Nazir, we know there's an end to his Naziris. Stam Naziris is Lamed Yoin. The Kohen Gadol, on the other hand, is inherently Kaddish for the rest of his life. Who had din, according to his Svara, a Nazir and a Kohen Hedyet also, not only a Kohen Gadol, but a Nazir and a Kohen Hedyet, the Kohen Hedyet would take precedent and not go ahead and be Matam Lameis Mitzvah, because the Kedusha of the Kohen also would be Kedushas Olam. Here, guys, according to the Svara, it's not limited to a Kohen Gadol. If the whole Svara is that the Kedusha of the Kohen is ongoing, it's never going to come to an end, versus the Nazirs, which will come to an end, therefore, the same Svara would apply to a Kohen Hedyet, whose Kedushas is forever, that if he's walking along with the Nazir. Now, what happens if the Nazir is a Nazir Olam? We know that we had earlier in the Masechta, there's 3 types of Naziris: a regular Nazir, a Nazir Olam, and a Nazir Shimshin. We said a Nazir Shimshin is unique; it's forever. He can never cut his hair, but he could be Metamala Mason. A regular Nazir, he can't be Metamala to Mason or cut his hair, but has an end. And then we have the Nazir Olam, such as Avshalom, that once a year could cut his hair, right? Once a year could cut his hair. So therefore, his Naziris also be Olam. In that case, you have a Nazir Olam walking along with a Kohen. What would the din be? Says Taisus, since Stam Naziris is Lamed Yaim, it doesn't make a difference. I guess also you could say that Stam Naziris is also subject to She'ela. A person can take off his Naziris. Nazir Shimshin you can never take off. Nazir Olam you could take off. So Masha'en Kain, the Kohen whose Kedusha is in his DNA, it's not subject to him being Makabal his Kedusha al Yedei Neder, right? The Nazir is only Yedei Neder, therefore what? He would take precedence. So very geschmack, this Svar over here. Nice Svar over here. Okay, Bishlem Kohen Gadol ben Nazir. Hi Sava Kohen Gadol Adif. Hi Sava Nazir Adif. Okay, we understand the Mishnah. The Gemara says, right, that you have a Kohen Gadol, you have a Nazir. Each one has his own opinion. Rabbi Eliezer says the Nazir takes precedent. Says the Chacham, the Kohen Gadol says precedent. What about the following? Mishuach b'shemen ha-mishcha umeru begodim. Who would take precedent? Okay, guys, outside a little yediyah over here. The Arin had on its side a few interesting objects. Of course, you had you had the Shivei Luchais, you had the Luchais. According to Machloikis, whether there was a Moshe Sefer Torah was inside the Aron or outside the Aron. Machloikis in Baba Basra, whether there was room or not. We had the Tzinsenes Mon, we had the flask of Mon. We had the Argaz that the Plishtim had sent back with golden mice and other golden things inside that was sent back. And you had the Shemen HaMishcha, The way you would anoint the Kohen Gadol would be you Al Yidei Shemen HaMishcha. Yeshayahu hid the Aron. When he hid the Aron, he hid all those artifacts along with the Aron, including the Shemen HaMishcha. So question, during the latter part of the Bayis Rishon, when it was after Yeshayahu was hidden, and the Bayis Sheni, the whole Bayis Sheni, how did you go ahead and anoint the Kohen Gadol, literally? Now, we know in the Bayis Sheni, we saw in Yuma, there was 300 Kohen Gedolim. It was a very ridiculous amount. After it was a political position, people were on Roy Lakach, and people were dying left and right. So you had many people ascending to the Kohen Gedolah. How they accomplished that without the Shemen HaMishcha? It was called Meruba Begadim. A regular Kohen would wear 4 begadim. You would increase the begadim by the unique begadim that the Kohen Gadol had, the ephod, the chayshen, right? The me'il, the different that they had the Nezer Kodesh. Those things, those 4 objects would be the difference between a Kohen Gadol and Kohen Hedyot. So by going ahead and putting on those begadim, that would be what. So now you have, let's say, logistically, the Tosfos goes through a whole long way how this is possible. See the Tosfos yourself if you're so interested. You have a person who was he was anointed Al Yidei Shemen HaMishcha. For whatever reason, he was out of bounds for a while. He was on the disabled list, and then they didn't have the Shemen HaMishcha because it had been hidden, and they had him Rub Begadim. He comes off the disabled list. Now you have 2 Kohanim walking along, right? You have one that was what? A Kohen that was Nashach Shemen HaMishcha, and Kohen Gadol was Murub Begadim. Who takes precedence? I mean, who does not contract Tumah? So it says the Gemara, Meshuach b'Shemen HaMishcha Adif. The one who was anointed with Shemen HaMishcha would be Adif. The Ilu Meshuach b'Shemen HaMishcha maybe para. No, so in other words, he's more Kaddish. And the Gemara says, why is he more Kaddish? Ilu Meshuach b'Shemen HaMishcha maybe para bo al kol ha-mitzvahs. The Ilu Merub Begadim ain't maybe Meshuach Shava ain't maybe. If a regular person does an Aveira, he has to bring a female, a sira, a goat, or a sheep, but it has to be a female. If a Nasi would do it, he brings a male sheep, right? But if a Kohen Gadol paskins and he has to bring a chatas, he has to bring Kohen HaMeshuach. He brings a par. He brings an axe. That axe is only, who would bring the axe? Is only the Kohen that was Meshuach b'Shemen HaMishcha. The Kohen who was what? Meruba Begadim does not bring that. So we see that he was a less in Kedusha than the one that was Meshuach b'Shemen HaMishcha. Because why? Because in fact, he brings this axe with a Kohen that's Meruba Begadim does not. So therefore, if they're both walking along and they encounter a Meis Mitzvah, who would take precedence to remain Tahar? It will be the Kohen that was Meshuach b'Shemen HaMishcha. Okay, another case. Meshuach she'avar, a Meshuach that is retired, Umruba begadim, and one is Meruba begadim, I'm walking along. Who takes precedent? Meruba begadim, Adif. He would take precedent not to be Matami. Why? The Meruba begadim Avid Avoida, the Ilu Meshuach she'avar, Lav bar Avoidahu. The one who's retired doesn't do the Avoida anymore. So who's more Kaddish? The Linyan Avoida, obviously, once upon a time, the Meshuach, the Shemen HaMishcha was Makadesh, but right now he's not. He's finished. He's retired. So the Kohen that Meruba Begadim, we would want to keep him Tahar, and therefore the one who was retired would deal with the base mitzvah. Over Machmas Kiruyav, over Machmas Mumai. Say 2 guys are out of bounds. 2 guys are they're not able to do the avodah. Who are they? A Kohen who is waiting for Erev Shemesh, because why? He saw Keri, or one that is a Baal Mum. So either one would not be able to do the Avodah. Right? The Balkari will be what? The Balkari, the Kohen's of Balkari has to be out of Machna Levia, right? He can't even be, he can't be a Machna Shechina, he can't even be a Machna Levia. He can't do it. The Baal Mum, He could be there, but he can't do the avodah because he's a balmum. Yeah. Over machmas kirav adif. The one who saw Kerry goes to the mikvah, he's at full yom. The next day he will be able to do the avodah. Whereas the one as a mum, you'd have to wait for the mum to go ahead and get cured. And generally it takes more than one day. So therefore what? The one, he would take precedent. The one that is Kerry would take precedent, and the one who has the mum would deal with the mes mitzvah. Okay, that's outside. There was a kohen that was Meshuach Muhammad. Kohen that was he was the guy in charge of giving the speech. We're going to learn Masechta Saita Be'ez Hashem in the not so near future. And there's a sugya there that deals with the kohen that's Meshuach Muhammad. He would give the speech. Mishu Rachlev, the guy who's scared, go back home. Mishu Bayin Bayis Chadash, who built a new house, go back home. Me just got married, go back home. He'd give this whole speech to go back home. And after the speech was over, if you didn't go back home, you ain't going back home. Right, unless you want to lose your legs. Okay, Baruch, stop it. Anyway, see, again, so he's the Meshuach Muhammad. He's giving the speech. Who's the Sagan? Who's the Sagan? Sagan is he's the vice president. What's the job of the vice president? If the president somehow has a heart attack, I mean, Baruch Hashem, I think the only reason we don't want Biden to go ahead and die is because the option is much worse. Right? Anyway, so the bottom line is he takes the place. So he's there. The Sagan is always there. The Sagan is always there. Right? Okay. He's walking along, and Meshuach Muhammad is walking along. So the Meshuach Muhammad, he has a job right now. The Sagan potentially has a job. The potential of the job of the Sagan is more important than the actual job of within your kedusha than the present job of the Meshuach Muhammad, right? So it says the Gemara, Meshuach Muhammad Sagan, Haiminayu Adif. Who would take precedence? Meshuach Muhammad Adif, the Chazil L'Mulchama, Aidilma Sagan Adif, the Chazil L'Avoida. The one Mulchama would take precedent. Let's keep him tahar, because why? He can here and now he can do work. Aidilma Sagan Adif, the Chazil L'Avoida, potentially he could do work. Potentially he could do work. Tashma, the Tanya, Ein bein Meshuach Muhammad l'Sagan, Elashim Hoyim Ahalchim B'derech Umatzah Meitz Mitzvah, Yitma Meshuach Muhammad Val Yitma Sagan. So regarding contracting Tumah, it seems the Sagan would take precedent. He would not go ahead and contract Tumah. The Meshuach Muhammad would go ahead and deal with the mace, which makes sense again. Chayra, the one who's dealing with the potential for the avodah, has to be able to go ahead and do the avodah, even though it's not there now. So we want him in the state of Tyra. This is what.
But there's no avodah now anyway for either the Sagan. They both could go into the Beis Hamikdash and do the avodah. What does it mean that?
Oh yeah, because there's somebody there now. He can't technically go in. If you have a kohen gadol, you can't technically go in. You can't just jump in.
Oh, okay.
You can't jump in, Shagi. There's a kohen gadol there. You can't just do it. Says the Gemara, V'hatani Akasha, Meshuach Muhammad Koydin L'Sagan, right? You learned that Meshuach Muhammad goes before the Sagan, meaning the Sagan should become Tameh, Mashma, that in other words, who is more Kaddish? The Meshuach Muhammad. So how do you answer this contradiction? Amma Masutra, Le'inyin Hechayaysei Meshuach Muhammad Adif. We're not discussing Tumah. We're discussing who do we go ahead and keep alive. Let's say you only have X amount of food, and you can only give it to one person. Give it to Meshuach Muhammad. Again, let's say a gal falls on both of them. Who do you clean away first to make sure the Meshuach Muhammad? In other words, you'll always go ahead and take Meshuach Muhammad regarding keeping them alive, not regarding Tumah. Regarding Tumah, the Sagan takes precedent. Let the Meshuach Muhammad go ahead and be Mitamal mitzvah. However, regarding the mitzvah of keeping alive, then the Meshuach Muhammad takes precedent. My Tamayu, the Tolibei Rabbim, because the Rabbim depends upon him. We find the Tolibei Rabbim, right? The rabbin that the rabbin needs him for that would take precedent. Linyan Tumah Sagan Adif, but regarding Tumah, the Sagan is strong. The Tanya, Chanina ben Atignus Aimer, Lama Tiknu Sagan L'Kohen Gadol. Why would they mataken a Sagan L'Kohen Gadol? Shem Ira by Psul, Harihu Nichnis Umeshamish Tachtav. Right? If there was Psul happened, he would come and take his place. He would go and take his place. So it's very fascinating, guys. I'll ask you a good kasha. You all learned the Mishnah, the first Mishnah Masechta Yoma, right? 7 days before they would go ahead and put the Kohen Gadol in the Lishkas Falhedrin to go ahead and make sure he's squeaky clean by times the Avodah, and they would go ahead and appoint another Kohen in his place. L'chayra, there always was Sagan, there always was someone, there was always a vice president in his place. Comes out regarding Yom Kippur, you're going ahead and making a Sagan to Sagan. In other words, you always thought that the guy, when you learn the Mishnah, you think that appointee, there was only one Kohen Gadol, and there wasn't an appointee, and then we would appoint one on Yom Kippur. You see from this Gemara, there always was a Sagan. There always was second place. But since the Avodah Yom Kippur was so important, they would appoint a second Sagan. That comes out that the one that you think is the first Sagan is really the second Sagan, just in case. That's what it seems like in this Gemara. That there was always
the Mishnah addresses it there. It says Im Kain Ein Lo Davar Sof, right?
That's getting another wife. That's regarding another wife. That was the kasha regarding other wife, right?
Why don't they?
Harold, yeah, okay, I'm sorry, yeah.
Why don't they ask this question? They ask it, but it's, if there's enough food to sustain a Sagan Kohen or a Nuz or Nuz. Why don't they ask the same question by a Kohen Gadol?
It's irrelevant. It's not a kasha. It's not a kasha. You only have a kasha when you had an open stira. You had a kasha. Now you have an open stira. You had a kasha. But funny, you had a kasha. You have a kasha the opposite. You just said A. I'm saying B. So we answered up. A and B are two different things. One's apple, one's oranges. Never was a kasha who would take precedence, right? The Kohen Gadol or the Nazir. I would say Le'inyan, I think it's a Dava Pashit, you feed the Kohen Gadol. I'm saying, again, if you're asking me, I would say you feed the Kohen Gadol. What with the Nazir? He's not important to the klal. He has no shaykhs to the klal. He's his individual person. Where the Kohen Gadol.
We didn't ask it though. All right. In a Chanami.
Ask it, Harold, but I'm answering you anyway, even though you
I understand. I'm
answering you to the point, okay?
Yeah, it's a good answer.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. You just made my night. Thanks.
Half my answers on the board.
Ashragi, be quiet. I don't have to hear from you, okay? I don't have to hear from you. It's enough I have to hear from him. Okay, anyway. Anyway, getting back to our Mishnah. What's our Mishnah? What's our Mishnah, guys? Kohen Gadol and Nazir, right? Meis mitzvah. Now, you brought the Shaila in who takes precedent. But we know the bottom line is each one individually alone would be mitama l'meis mitzvah. How do you know that? In other words, first base, how are you mitama l'meis mitzvah? How are you mitame l'meis mitzvah? Okay, how are you mitame l'meis? Where do you know that from? Where do you know that from? Where's the source? Ad kan le pligi machloikas tim yableis nechachamim ela b'koyin gadol v'nazir ki ka'asli b'adei dadi when they're accompanying each other. Aval chad l'chudei. However, each one individually, if they were the only one and no one else, bar itmuye inun. They're both what? They both bar mimut. They both go ahead what and be mitama. So the pasuk says, "Kol nafshes by the kohen gadol, kol nafshes meis lo yavoy." On any nefesh of a mace, he should not come. Lo aviv uleima lo yitama. To his mother and his father, he should not be mitama. So, guys, the word lo aviv uleima is totally extraneous. You just told me I'll call nafshes meis lo yavoy, right? Once you told me I'll call nafshes meis lo yavoy, what are you saying? You're saying don't be mitama. That's what you're saying. Don't be mitama. Question. So then why do you have to say lo aviv uleima? Says the Gemara. The Tanu Rabbana. I'll call nafshes meis lo yavoy. What mesim are we speaking about? Iber chaykim, people who are not relatives, people, right? Kal v'chaymehu mikayin hedyet. Uma kayin hedyet shum mitama l'kroivim. A kayin hedyet who could be mitama to the 7 relatives. Eina mitama l'rechaykim. It's not mitama to who? To those who are not relatives. Kayin gadol she'eina mitama l'kroivim. A kayin gadol who cannot be mitama to relatives. Eina din she'eina mitama l'rechaykim. Is it not a kal v'chayim that he can't be mitama to rechaykim? So therefore, Ella, when it says I'll call nafshes meis lo yavo, you know what it means? It means not any nefesh, even your kroivim. It means even your kroivim. Again, we can deduce beautifully. It doesn't mean any nefesh, because if a kohen hedyet can't be mitama to any nefesh, a kohen gadol can't. Ella, what's it teaching me? It's teaching me any nefesh that even if it's your relative, you can't be mitama to. Memela, now it's shver. Why do you have to say lo aviv le'imai? Says the Gemara. So therefore, la'aviv, when it says la'aviv, who deina mitama? to his father, he can be Tama, Hamatama Lames Mitzvah, but he could go ahead and be Matama Lames Mitzvah. He could be Matama Lames Mitzvah. Amid Aleph, Ula Imai, Mitzvah Ula Imai, why do we do the extra word imai? We don't need it after all. A kol nafshes meis, and nafshes means kroivim. Certainly your mother is a relative, so therefore you told you can't be matama to her. So therefore, why state the obvious? Says the Gemara, we need for Rabbi. Why did Rabbi say the Tanya Rabbi Aimer? Gabi Nazir, it says it says we just did in the last parakais, the Geisis, right? The machlokes between by the Kohen Gadol, it says and here it says Maisam. We said Rabbi Yochanan said there's no nafkamina in halacha, and Reish Lakish said there is. According to Yechalu, if it's even a chalal, a Geisis, you will not be able to enter the room. And Rabbi says b'maisam only when they're dead. The word by Nazir b'maisam is extra. It says I'll never, because the Rabbi said I'll never meis layavai. If it's said by the Nazir al nefesh meis layavai, why do you have to say b'maisam? So now we're going to have a gezeira shava from the Nazir b'maisam to the Kohen Gadol. B'maisam ain't a metama, ava metama hu l'negoyim ulizivasam. But it could be metama to who? The Nazir could be metama to a person who is a zava or a zav or mitzaira. The whole tum is the ashara of being metama is tumas meis, but a zav and a mitzaira you could. So who within the Kohen Gadol will be able to be what to mitama what to a zav and a mitzaira. So that's what we need the imay for. The imay by Nazir to the imay by Kohen Gadol, just like the b'maisam dafka when it's to mismace they can't be mitama, but for zav and mitzaira the Nazir could be. Who within the Kohen Gadol can't be mitama l'meis, but he could be mitama to a relative or any person that's a zav and a mitzaira. Okay, Bez Hashem tomorrow morning.